Hello and welcome to the start of my new series of Shadow of the Erdtree NPC Questline guides. I've got a few episodes of this series basically ready to go already, but I didn't want to release them too early and spoil too much of the game for you before you were ready to receive them. However, in pretty much every video I've done so far on the DLC, people have been begging for my NPC questline guides. Therefore, I thought I would bring you Moor's whole quest today, as almost all of this can be completed without even fighting anything, and more importantly, before breaking Miquella's Great Rune. Meaning you can do 90% of this questline without impacting literally anything else in the game. This makes it the perfect first questline to start with, so let's jump straight in. As we make our way to this site of grace just in front of Bellurat Tower Settlement, we will meet Moor and Ansbach for the first time. Make sure you speak to both of these NPCs and exhaust their dialogue. And most importantly, for Moor, make sure you buy at least one item from him to unlock the ability to talk to him further.
Many things we have found. I like finding things for you, Lady Leda, her allies, and the Forager brood. Things bring joy to all. Goodbye.
You must be the Tarnished. I am Ansbach, formerly in service to Lord Moog.
Once you have done this for both NPCs, you can then rest at the site of grace and speak to Ansbach about Moor to learn a bit more about him. That is all you need to do here for now. The next thing we're going to do is make our way towards Castle Ensis and meet Tiolier.
If you spot any Forager brood, be sure to mind your manners.
Once you've made your way down and spoken to Tiolier, you can then teleport back to Moor and acquire the Black Syrup. Please note this isn't part of Moor's questline, but if you don't do this before you finish Moor's questline, you will then mess up Tiolier's questline for yourself. So make sure you do this as a very important yet still optional side step before you carry on. Otherwise, to complete Tiolier's questline, which we will probably do in the next NPC questline video, you will need to start a brand new playthrough and do it all again. The next step for Moor's questline isn't for quite some time until you get to Scadu Altus, and you can do this either through the Fort of Reprimand by discovering the sealed Spirit Spring in the south of Gravesite Plain, or simply by going through Castle Ensis and defeating Relana. Once you are in Scadu Altus and you've grabbed the High Road Cross Site of Grace and met Leda, you can now head northwest to the north of the Church of Crusade, and here you will meet an injured member of the Forager brood. This is the only important and required member of the brood to complete Moor's questline. However, if you do want to thoroughly complete the entire quest, including all optional steps, you will have to find all 6, so don't worry, we will talk about the other 5 in just a minute, but this is the most important one and the only one you cannot miss if you want to correctly finish the quest. Anyway, to help this little fella, what you need to do is use a warming stone. He is actually cold and shivering, so warm him up and he will be endlessly grateful. Now you can teleport back to the site of grace and come back to him where you can now collect his cookbook. And as we are on the way back, I would just like to say Moor and the Forager brood are such a welcome addition to Shadow of the Erdtree, and I am so happy to FromSoftware for doing this. There is something so sweet and charming about having non-human allies in games, and the Forager brood are so endearing. I just wish this questline was longer, and I wish they featured more in the later parts of the game. Anyway, now that we've collected that cookbook, we can go back and speak to Moor.
Welcome.
And when we choose the option Talk to Moor, he will say this.
Is for you, the Forager brood. Give their thanks.
And with the Forager Brood Cookbook 7 in hand, containing 2 of the most powerful new crafting items in the game, we can now continue onward to meet the other 5 members of the Forager Brood and acquire their cookbooks also. We will start at Morth Ruins, though 5 of the 6 of the Foragers can be completed in any order. You just need to make sure that you do them before you break Miquella's Great Rune. So from Morth Ruins, we are going to head northeast And at the very tip of this lake, you can head through the underpass and start proceeding to the next area. When you come out the other side, on the right hand side near the cliff edge, you can speak to this forager and acquire cookbook number 5. And whilst we're here, something I recommend everybody do is just keep heading west into Ra base and grab the Site of Grace. For the next forager, we will actually be going back to Morth Ruins again, this time heading southwest, going around the back of Castle Ensis. Be very careful as you run by this lake because there is a sniper lobster waiting for you and another one hiding out under the water. So unless you fancy tangling with them, give that lake a wide berth as you run toward the edge of the mountain. As we get here, you will see a Ghost Glovewort 7, and shortly after you will find the Forager with Forager Brood Cookbook number 1. As you'll see on the map, that is all 3 in this area acquired. So now we're going to head back to the first area in the game, in fact back to the Site of Grace where Moore is, and we can now run south through the mountain pass and up towards Prospect Town. I've covered this route in many videos, so I won't bore you with the full route, but when you do get to the outskirts of the town, now you just want to head southeast, and past a few groups of enemies, again near the cliff edge, this forager will give you cookbook number 2. So now we have got 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7. Next up, we will be acquiring cookbook number 3, and this is the point at which most people will want to stop before they fully finish the quest line, but I will explain exactly why in just a minute. The path to this next forager is a bit longer. Now you want to be down below where you first met Tiolier. This will be near the lake that eventually leads you to the Spirit Spring, which takes you up to the Fort of Reprimand. Head right down to the bottom of the mountain, and just here where I've just shown you on the map, run past the Crab and the Miranda Bloom, and as you venture through these caves, you will eventually come out at the riverbed of Elec River. You may as well grab the Site of Grace whilst you're here, just in case something goes wrong. And now we are going to come out into the riverbed and then start heading south down the river. Be very careful along these rocks. It's okay if you drop down as long as you don't drop too far and die. It will still lead you to the same location. It's just safer and easier if you manage to hop along the rocks and stay above like I am. Then as we continue, you'll need to make your way past quite a few grave birds that are all going to try and ambush you. And once you've made it past them, carefully traverse down the last few rocks, and then you can snag yourself another Site of Grace, again, just in case something goes wrong. Because as we all know, the camera and more importantly, gravity are the 2 main bosses of any Souls game. Anyway, we now have access to the Elec River downstream Site of Grace, and with that we will continue heading south as we near the end of our journey. Again, keep carefully traversing down these rocks, and then turn left and head east along this long horizontal rock. Now that we're finally back on solid ground, still heading east, you will see a bunch of lightning rams. Just run past them, and right over in the corner of this currently unexplored area, you will see the second final member of the Forager Brood, who gives you Forager Brood Cookbook number 3. It is at this point that we can head back to Morth Ruins if you would like to finish Moor's questline. But as I say, leave it here for now if you aren't ready to break the Great Rune, because it will also impact a few other NPCs' questlines, such as Lady Leda and more importantly, Ansbach. For those of us who are ready, you are going to head to this marker I've just placed to the northeast of Morth Ruins. There are 2 holes, 2 places to drop down in the ruins. One of them is technically doable if you land very carefully, but it is extremely risky and it's not the intended way down. So you actually want to come to the hole in the ground that's further to the northeast, just where you grab the Shadow Realm Rune 3. From here, you can start making your way down the gaps in the buildings, and once you've got the 3 white flesh mushroom, still just keep following my path down deeper into the ruins. From here, as you can see, there's a few Inquisitor enemies and a chest you can grab. I'm going to ignore it all for now and just head right down to the bottom towards this ladder at the end of the cave. Make your way up the ladder and you will find yourself out in Bonnie Village. In Bonnie Village, just keep heading east. There is one broken bridge and 2 intact bridges that you want to cross. And as you are making your way along, eventually you will see another new Site of Grace. Grab this Site of Grace and stop here just in case you don't want to break the Great Rune. As I bring up the map and show you where we're going, just 1 or 2 steps further will break the Great Rune. So make absolutely sure you're ready to do so before you do. And right at the end of this area, you will find the final Forager Brood. So I'm now going to take a few steps forward. And as you hear and see, the Great Rune has now broken, and so too has a powerful charm. From here, I will skip most of this. You are just heading directly north, following the dirt track, until you eventually get here where I placed my marker and you can grab yet another Site of Grace. Now that that's done, come all the way over to the northwest and you can climb up the rocks to get on top of the cliff. Just to your right, you will wake a load of skeletons as you run past a graveyard, but feel free to ignore it, they will de-aggro. And then right over in the corner is the final member of the Forager Brood, who gives you Forager Brood Cookbook number 6. At this point, you can go back to Morth and you have a big decision to make. Before we speak to him, the reason I said to go and collect all 6 cookbooks, even though only one of them is required, is because once we have done this next step, all remaining members of the Forager Brood will either disappear or die, and all of their cookbooks will no longer be collectible. Now that you know that, speak to Moore and he will give you this heartbreaking speech about being abandoned.
Mother abandoned her brood. She did not love us. We are her children. What should we do? Must we be sad forever?
Now you have 3 options ahead of you. Firstly, please note that just clicking I don't know allows you to save this choice for later. It's just a way to exit out without making a firm decision. Next up, put it behind you may seem like the nicer option. But the only real key difference of choosing this is that during the second final boss fight of the game, Moore will join against you as an enemy and make this final fight harder. You will acquire all of his equipment and his bell bearing once you have defeated him. And as I say, this is technically the nicer ending because you are trying to help him. But if you want to play the most efficient and still redeem all available rewards, you must tell him to remain sad forever. Doing this is absolutely heartbreaking, but as we move into the final section of the video, I'll show you why this is the better choice for you. And now, finally, we shall return to the Forager Brood member that we helped at the Church of Crusade in Northwest Altus. And we will see that, unfortunately, Moore has died heartbroken in his arms. It is here where you can obtain all of the exact same equipment that you would, even if you opted to do Moore's good ending and fight him near the end of the game. But this way, you have one less enemy to face, and you acquire all of this equipment much, much earlier. And as I say, please note, all of the Forager Brood are destined to die anyway. The only difference choosing this ending is that Moore dies in the arms of a friend, rather than by your hand. As heartbreaking as this quest is, did you expect anything less from FromSoftware? They make us kill all of our friends, or at least watch them all die. This, unfortunately, is where Moore's journey ends. Though armed with a plethora of new crafting items and Moore's entire inventory, yours is just beginning. And with that, my friends, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.